virtually for 5 minutes.
Thank you, and thanks to the witnesses. Congratulations on your nominations. I want to start very quickly with having the SEC nominees pronounce their name. I've got a little crisis of confidence since I've heard 4 or 5 different pronunciations.
My name is Jaime Lizarga.
Lizarga.
And mine is Mark Ueda.
Ueda. Thank you. Okay, I got the phonetics right. I just wanted to make sure they were the right ones. I'm going to come back to you all, but I want to start with Mr. Barr. Mr. Barr, I actually want to start where Senator Daines did on Senate Bill 2155. I've heard your comments and how some of the amendments allayed some of your concerns, but what I played an active role in getting that bill passed and getting strong bipartisan support. What aspects of the bill do you, and I also heard you say that you would faithfully implement the strong bipartisan support will of Congress, but what areas of the bill do you think represent or are areas of concern for you as you move forward to confirmation?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. Really, I would like to take a look at capital and liquidity in the system as a whole. I don't think it makes sense to be backward-looking and analyzing, this or that change in the law from the past. What I'd like to do, if confirmed, is to look at capital and liquidity as a whole. And as I said, capital and liquidity in the system today, I think, is quite strong. Again, I agree with the basic principles of the legislation, the idea of tiering of financial regulation based on risk and based on size. And that's an approach that I would bring to the implementation of that law if confirmed.
Okay. Another area I want to touch on, it relates to climate. Are you aware of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York? I believe it was a staff research paper that was titled, "How Bad Are Weather Disasters for Banks?" Are you familiar with that staff report?
Yes, sir. I am familiar with it.
Do you recall the main takeaways of that report?
It's been a while since I've looked at it, but I think the main takeaway was that in the last couple decades or so, there haven't been any weather events that have led to the failure of a bank.
Yeah, I think the ones that stick in my mind are the takeaway that larger banks were barely affected. Smaller banks showed minor impacts, but nothing large enough to even remotely threaten bank solvency. And then post-disaster, an actual increase in loan demand. So I think as we talk about, we've got 2 pieces. We have customers of banks who probably have to look ahead and see their own exposures. But the banks themselves seem to be relatively safe against disasters, at least in this story. And I think that has to be instructive when we have regulators talking about climate change being a major factor in future regulation. So that's just a point of information. Happy to let you comment, but that's something I think we should take into account as we weave in climate change in any regulatory regimen for the banks. And with that, Mr. Lizarga and Mr. Ueda, I want to ask you all a little bit about resources. I know that the SEC is on a really fast pace now, 25 plus proposals this year, hundreds of pages per proposal, with almost just as many questions coupled with short comment periods. It's moving very, very quickly. So I have a question for you all on 2 fronts. Number one, how would the SEC have the bandwidth and staff support to get these proposals done right? So that's an internal SEC question and resourcing. And just with the sheer number of proposals, how can we make sure that some of the smaller entities that would like to weigh into the process with these abbreviated comment periods, how can we be sure that we get the resource balance right, both at the SEC and among those who have something to say about the proposed regulations?
Thank you, Senator. With regards to the first part of your question, I have not been privy to the internal decision making, so I'm not in a position to comment on that. But I do think that it is important for stakeholders to have an opportunity to comment on these proposals. And in some instances, smaller issuers do have some relief included for them. But as a general matter, I believe in the principle of stakeholders having an opportunity, a meaningful opportunity to comment on these proposals.
Mr. Uday?
Yes, I believe that the ability of all stakeholders, whether large or small, to comment as part of the Administrative Procedure Act notice and comment process is critical to make informed decisions and have a rational basis for those decisions as required by law.
Thank you. I do believe there's been some positive discussions with the SEC to discuss this issue, and we're going to continue. I'm going to continue to look at that. And I think I've spoken with members on the other side of the aisle who share the concerns. So, Mr. Ueda, thank you for your comments. Congratulations again to all three of you for your nominations.
Thank you, Senator